Yeah. Broadcasting live on WNN 1470 AM, 95.3 FM, iHeartRadio, and the World Wide Web. This is Make America Think Again with your Google Blacklisted host, Tom Trento.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger. No, Will Robinson. Danger.
Wow. Somebody got their butt kicked last night in a vice presidential debate. Somebody, and we're gonna take a look at this morning. Tom Trento, your host, WNN 1470 AM 95.3 at 9:04 in the morning on a beautiful, little rainy, beautiful Florida morning, October 8, 25 days. 25 days until Western civilization makes a decision. We got a phenomenal show, and Susie Gold, you're here with me this morning. How you doing over there?
Good morning, Tom. I'm doing great. Good morning, everybody.
We're talking to each other. What the heck is this? We have
I know. Who is this? Where did it come from?
A carpetbagger?
Who is this guy?
Who are you?
Welcome, whoever you are.
Good morning. Willie G in the house here. Thanks for having me on, Tom and Susie.
Did you bring a harmonica?
No, it's my day off today.
Oh, your day off. All right. We got Willie G, Willie Guardiola, Christian on a mission, one-man wrecking machine for Donald Trump in the state of Florida. We're going to get an update from him a little later. We have Jessie Jane Duff with the Trump campaign. Somebody let me know when she comes on. Do we know the time she's coming on? In about 10 minutes. Okay, great. Good. We got a little time before Noreen comes on. Tell everybody about Noreen. You've been speaking with her and hooking her up here.
Sure. Noreen's going to be a very exciting guest. Everyone's going to want to hear her. She's an award-winning Assyrian-American activist. She fights to stop the persecution of Christians and fellow minorities in the Middle East. Very important person and an incredible personality. You're going to love hearing from her. And of course, we're going to hear more about Willie G. And the GOP should be coming on any minute.
Yeah, that will be happening. And as everybody knows, and maybe you don't know if you're tuning in for the first time, my name is Tom Trento. I direct an organization, group of volunteers, highly dedicated people. The organization is called The United West. The idea is to unite the Western countries based upon the political philosophy, the moral theology that flows out of ancient Rome from a political point of view, ancient Greece in terms of constructing a republic and having the citizens of a country take part in the construction of that country. Then those ideas through the Middle Ages made their way through the Judeo-Christian influence through the Catholic Church primarily. And then the Protestant evangelical movement coming out of 1517 when Martin Luther said, we got to change this around a little bit. And all of that put together, you have a political philosophy based upon the Judeo-Christian principles as articulated in the Hebrew scriptures and the Christian scriptures. That's the Weltanschauung, a good word, Willie, Weltanschauung. You know you're German? He's out of here. You know Cuban?
Spanish.
You know you're Spanish, okay.
Microphone.
He's a Cubano. You got to talk right into that mic. And coming out of all of that, a political philosophy was developed 244 years ago by a bunch of old white racist guys, you would think, right? Old white racist guys. These were philosophers, theologians, farmers, all of that. They got together, told King George, we ain't doing it anymore, man. No taxation without representation. And they just went into a room and wrote this stuff, and we're following it today as originalists. So the United West stands firmly on the founding documents, not just the Declaration and the Constitution. You look at the Federalist Papers, which take the concepts, the political philosophies a bit further. And for 243 years or so, this has been working very, very well, better than any constitutional republic ever in the world. And our mission, the United West, is to defend that Constitution, defend these principles, to defend the state of Israel, which is articulating very similar principles as our number one national security partner. And then we fight Islamic Jihad. Those are the attacks philosophically and kinetically against the West. And we fight Marxism, kinetic and cultural attacks against the West. Thus, for the past 2 years and now 25 days, our mission, Christian on a mission, Willie G., our mission is to mobilize 1,000,001 additional Christian voters in the state of Florida to win for Donald Trump so we can have 4 more years of following the United States Constitution. What do you think about all that, Willie G.?
I think it's a great concept, and running a ministry called Christian on a Mission. Of course, my focus has been on the Catholic vote here in the Diocese of Palm Beach of 53 parishes. And I was blessed about 10 months ago with our own Bishop Barbarito and our Chancellor, Father Albert Della Russo, to give me the green light to go to all 53 parishes to go and do voter registration. So I predicted way back when that Trump was going to win the Catholic vote 60%. Last time he won it 52 to 45. And I truly believe it's just a matter of getting the Christians, the evangelicals, and the Catholics to come out and vote. And that's the biggest thing. Unfortunately, the pandemic hit in March, so we had to kind of stop doing the voter registration physically at the churches. But I continue on with all my emails. I'm in touch with all the pastors and all the priests here in the diocese, which covers 5 counties, and we go all the way from Boca to Sebastian. So that's a huge voting block right there.
Yeah, you're doing an amazing job. Tell us briefly, we'll get into it a little later. Let me know when Noreen comes on. Tell us briefly about the Trump Corner, the infamous Trump Corner in Palm Beach Gardens up there.
It's actually been the talk of the town for the past, say, 4 or 5 weeks. We're really going back to 2016 when I started Trump Corner. It is amazing. It really is. And it's great because our own president that lives here in Palm Beach County tweets about it all the time. And so does Dan Scavino. So the past 4 weeks has been interesting because the Biden people have been trying to take over Trump Corner, which is PJ military.
No.
They're going on Wednesdays, and we, of course, go on Friday. They end up having maybe 40 people. We have 400 people. So the enthusiasm in that corner, that's kind of like my barometer and my poll. It exactly tells me how we're doing in South Florida. And people, of course, all over the country get to see what's going on in Trump Corner. So just to give you an idea, Channel 10 from Miami, WPLG, called me on Saturday, 3 p.m. And it said, Willie, we need to interview you for the 11 p.m. news tonight. I said, guys, I just got back from talking at the women's conference, the CCW, St. Jude Catholic Church in Tequesta. And it said, we need to interview you. I said, I'm not driving to Miami. He says, we'll drive to wherever you're at. Long story short, they drove all the way up from Miami in the pouring down rain, met me at Trump Corner, PJ Military, interviewed me for 5 minutes, got back in their car, and drove back home to Miami in the pouring down rain. That tells you a little something about the dedication of people and the respect they have for this president.
You got some street cred, let me tell you. Susie Gold, Mark, and Mary, and you. I got a question that I want you to answer, and then we're going to talk about it later on after we get through part of the show, 9:12 in the morning, Tom Trento.
Can I pull a Kamala Harris and not answer it on this show, or what?
All you have to do is change the subject.
Yeah. Well, it's 9:12 in the morning, Tom Trento, your host, WNN 1470. You're listening. Thank you, Brian and Steve Kane. They deliver a great audience to us. More and more people are listening. And we're sending more people to listen to those guys, 6 to 9. You got to listen to them every morning. You get 4 hours of unfiltered, unadulterated analysis of reality of the truth. Here's the question. We'll start with you, Susie Gold. 2 people debated last night, Vice President Michael Pence and the other woman there who's running for the vice president, Kamala, whatever, Harris. Susie Gold, who won the debate?
100% hands down, Pence won the debate. And that doesn't, like, you could be Republican, you could be Democrat. Just watching it, just being impartial, there's absolutely no question that he won. He was, first of all, his presence was professional, dignified, classy, pointed and he answered the questions. He may have followed up a previous question to just come full circle and answer the question fully and to counter Kamala Harris. But Kamala Harris, to me, now I grew up in New York. Okay, I went to yeshiva for a
New
few
York.
years.
You're from New
But then
York?
I went to
What
public
part of New York?
school.
What part
I grew up in Queens,
in
in
the
Howard
Queens?
Beach, Queens.
Okay.
We were bused to
Howard
Jamaica.
Beach, really? That's a
Yeah,
tough area.
where John Gotti was.
Yeah, Gotti's in Queens.
It's
Yeah,
a very
Howard
Italian
Beach.
Jewish neighborhood
All right.
and great neighborhood. We never locked our doors, because it was very safe.
Tom, we have Naren.
Okay,
Great.
good.
But anyway,
Well,
I
you
just wanted to
up.
finish and say that I then went to public school. I went to a very tough public school in Jamaica. We were bused in
Jamaica, Queens, not in Jamaica,
Queens.
Jamaica.
Yeah, Jamaica, Queens.
Where
We were
Kamala's
bussed
from.
in. Yeah, we were bussed in. And, I always say I didn't go to the bathroom for 4 years because I heard there were stabbings in the bathroom. So I held it in all day long. But it was a very tough high school. And you didn't go out in the playground. If you did, it could be a problem. You can get into fist fights and so forth. And that's what Kamala reminded me of a tough bulldog, snobby, snotty individual that you would see on the playground that you avoided. And so I think her smug, her facial expressions and just how she responded was unprofessional, undignified, and like a street fighter.
Well, a little later in the show, we're gonna dig into that because you're a woman, but what you just said, according to CNN, you're a racist. You're a white woman racist for making those statements about her. So we'll look at how everything is spinning. But right now, we have our guest. You want to introduce our next guest?
Naren, it's such a pleasure to have you. This is Naren Onweya. She is an Assyrian activist, director of special projects at the Middle Eastern Women's Coalition. She warned attendees of a silent genocide that's taking place among the Assyrians in the Middle East. So welcome, Naren. Tell us about what your organization is doing, what you've accomplished, and what some of your future goals are.
But before you do that, Naren, nice to see you again. I interviewed you a couple of years ago. Mark and I were, and Phil Haney was with us back then. But if you're looking at us on Zoom, I just want to draw your attention to the fact that Susie Gold is an observant Jew. I am an evangelical evangelical Protestant, and we have the hardest core Roman Catholic you've ever seen in your life in the middle. So we got the whole interfaith thing up here. And now we have an Assyrian Christian with us. Amazing.
Great to have you, Naren.
Thank you so much for having me, and honored to be with you. So I'm actually working currently with the official Assyrians for Trump campaign. And basically our organization is to rally not only Middle Easterns, but Assyrians as well. Just between Illinois and Michigan, we have over 600,000 Assyrian Christians from Iraq and Syria. So truly, our people can mold an election. And, as you know, President Trump had won Michigan by slightly over 10,000 votes. So I try to educate our people. We've been voiceless for so long, and President Trump is finally standing up for us and annihilated ISIS when we were neglected by the previous administration. But truly just to shed light, I travel across the country just to share the silent genocide when my people were being persecuted and annihilated in Iraq and Syria. And it was nowhere on the news. And, with the help of media outlets like yourself and Sean Hannity, we were able to get the genocide out on national TV to finally be heard. As you know, our people were being buried in mass graves while President Obama and Vice President Biden were standing on the sidelines watching.
Yeah, and Naren, I think it's very important right now we do a little history lesson. We can't go into all the Middle Eastern elements of it, but if you look on a map, you look for Assyria. I mean, there is no Assyria now. What is, when you say you're an Assyrian Christian, what geographic land, what is the historic context you're talking about?
So Assyria is Iraq, Syria, Kuwait, part of Iran, and part of Turkey. This was Assyria for thousands of years until we were colonized in the 1940s, and they pretty much created every country but Assyria. So, I truly believe that the Middle East was made to be very Islamic, and even if they weren't radical, they radicalized them just by the formation of the governments in the countries, by giving power to the Muslims, and the Christians were pretty much left out to fend for themselves, and we were thrown amongst all the other countries. And the Assyrians, being the cradlers of civilization, the Ninevites, from the Bible times, but even historically before then. But the Assyrians were always, being the cradlers of civilization, always open to Western ideas and civilized ideas. And so we always allied with the West, including the British forces. We helped the West in World War II as well. And so when we were kind of thrown to the side, then we were labeled as traitors because we allied with the British forces. In fact, one of the strongest elite forces that the British military had were called the Assyrian levies. That's when President Trump spoke and said, the Kurds had never helped the Americans in the West. And then they claimed that they did through the Assyrian levies, but they did not. They were called Assyrian levies because they were Assyrian special forces. And so, when they left and, left us alone, still with no boundaries, since we were completely overtaken, that's when the second genocide happened. And then further on, then ISIS came along. So one of the main reasons why the Assyrian people, we've been around for almost 7,000 years, but a lot of times we're attacked because we have no safe haven currently. And President Trump is trying to push that forward to finally have a safe haven where we're not suffering a countless amount of genocides, because right now in Iraq, there's only less than 200,000 Christians left. And there are more of us just between Illinois and Michigan than on our homelands. And we don't believe in being refugees all over the world. We want to stay on our homelands. We just need a safe haven. And a lot of times people are empowered in the Middle East, but never really the Christians. We've been around for almost 7,000 years. It's not like we don't know how to take care of ourselves, but unfortunately, because of our faith and our ethnicity, being native, being indigenous, we are highly targeted.
All right, we're gonna get into that, but we have a special guest with us right now from the Trump campaign, Jessie Jane Duff, who is Women for Trump, Veterans for Trump. She's a retired Marine and a friend of ours on the show often. Jessie, good morning. You have Noreen on, who's an Assyrian Christian. We're talking about Christian persecution. We're mobilizing 1,000,001 evangelical Christians here in Florida to vote for Trump. We have Willie G with us, who runs a Trump campaign throughout the state. And we have Susie Gold with us, an observant Jew, mobilizing Jews for Trump. But we have a question for you, Jessie Jane. Give us your analysis of this debate last night. And you know what? Speak your mind, Jessie Jane Duff.
She's not speaking her mind.
She's not speaking her mind.
She's
what
silent
happened?
today.
I think
Is she-
she's muted.
is she
Maybe
muted?
unmute.
You're on mute.
Yeah, she left us and came back, so we're trying to get her on.
Okay, let me know when she comes back
All
on.
right.
And
I was not muted, so I'm not quite sure what
Okay.
was going on.
all right, we got you now.
We got you.
You heard my
Well,
question,
I
right?
appreciate, yes, I heard your question. I appreciate you saying don't hold back, but I think you already know that I seldom do.
Yeah, it's a joke.
I don't need to sound like a cheerleader for Trump, and I don't need to start sounding like how awful Kamala Harris is. I think the media has done an excellent job overall in projecting that this debate was clearly Mike Pence's win. And I want to be as reasonable as possible, but she just makes it so easy to show what type of campaign the Biden-Harris ticket is. For example, every time she couldn't answer a question, she would try to dodge and say something inflammatory. When she tried to suggest that they were packing the courts, she said of the 50 court judges who had been nominated by the president, that none were black. Like, she tried to deflect in ways that were actually very, very immature. She tried 24 times, she lied during the debates. We heard her actually have the audacity, and we know it's an audacity because Biden and Harris know the truth, that the fine people on both sides is a misleading, if not flagrant lie that they're using to suggest that this president is a racist. They're repeating a lie over and over and over again, and anybody who believes that at this point is willfully ignorant, blind to facts, because even CNN had refuted that. The one thing that really stood out to me was when Vice President Pence called her out at trying to inflame fear and tell people to be terrified of a virus, of the vaccine for the virus, if it's recommended by the President of the United States. Now, I know people on the right have their issues with vaccines. I'm fine with their concern. This is your choice if you should get the vaccine. But to suggest to the American people that you will not take the vaccine if President Trump recommends it was again, a political statement trying to create absolute chaos, fear. So I posted on Twitter this morning, these people are ghouls. They actually use this virus because all other attempts had failed to dismantle this administration. They use this virus to shut down the economy, to shut down our churches, and now to build discredit with a virus that the FDA would approve. This type of insanity is why there is this divisiveness that the final question addressed. Why can two political parties be so savage towards each other? And Vice President Pence actually answered it very coherently, where Kamala turns around, and I call her Kamala now because you know what? She couldn't even call Joe Biden the vice president himself. It's a title he has actually earned. Joe. Oh, Joe. You never once heard Vice President Pence call President Trump Donald. It was just really childish, immature, the smirking. I just was pretty much floored at the lack of preparation on her part, that all she could resort to was making things up to say that this economy is a disaster and actually ignore that China put this upon the American people. For her to talk about a peaceful transition of power while Vice President Pence was able to look at her and say, what are you talking about? Your party for over 3 years, and it's actually been 4 years now, has never accepted the results of the 2016 election. My goodness, that is the fact. That is the truth. I love how he said to her, you are allowed to have your own opinion, but you cannot create your own facts or have your own facts. What she was suggesting throughout that entire debate just made my skin crawl. You would have had to be a flagrant partisan and ignorant individual to say that everything she said was accurate and fair, because you know that that was not true.
Okay,
All
Jesse
right.
J. All
That
right.
was great.
We had you for 5 minutes. Everybody on I-95, their cars are driving down the road. Who was
Some
this?
had to pull
love it.
over.
What's going on?
I get a quick thing.
Oh, and that was me pretty calm. You've had me
Yeah,
on
I
before,
know.
so.
It was spot on. It was spot on. One quick
I-
question, Mark. We
yeah,
gotta
go
let it
ahead.
soon.
One
ahead,
quick
Mark. You had a
question. It's the same thing with the vaccine. I was very disturbed by what Maxine said last about the vaccine. That Trump, if he takes it, I won't take it, or he tells me to take it, I won't take it. It's the same thing as the hydroxy. Can you compare? And it's killed people not taking hydroxy.
You know, I'm not a medical professional, and I'm trying to, as hard as I can, to be very fair in my analysis with anything that I hear or say. I'm not a medical professional. I would say that right now that the attacks on Walter Reed Hospital offend me more than the attacks on hydroxy. The statements that they should defund Walter Reed, that they were irresponsible, when there are veterans like myself that actually have Walter Reed as their primary care provider. The D.C. metropolitan area run by Walter Reed is my primary care provider. There are people like Johnny Joey Jones on Fox News who has no legs, and because of the hard work of those men and women at Walter Reed have saved his life. That offends me more. Hydroxy, okay, they're going to have to debate that out among the medical professionals because I honestly do not know squat about hydroxy. I do believe, I can say I personally believe that they have politicized it, which is very unfortunate. I do understand that there have been things by the CDC brought forward about hydroxy that are questionable. I think that's a fair and reasonable discussion, but to create the hysteria they created is not fair. And I don't think that it's been handled fairly. That's all I'm asking for is fairly. But when the left went after Walter Reed Hospital, that should be offending every conservative out there because what are you now suggesting? One, Washington Post reporter Jennifer Rubin said that we need to defund Walter Reed. How can the Washington Post even publish that? How can the Washington Post even allow that woman to be on their payroll? That is veteran health care. That is military health care. Y'all have failed the veterans in the previous administration. 300,000 died in the VA. 600,000 were left waiting in a 2015 IG report because they were unable to get care by the VA. And you want to shut down Walter Reed? So let's remember the facts, people, that the left hates anything that benefits this president or this nation. They don't want to destroy him. They want to destroy all of us when they went after Walter Reed because that's my health care. That's the health care of all veterans and military personnel out there. They benefit off of the research that goes on in that hospital. So, I'm sorry. I'm 95. You can start driving again.
Everybody can start driving. Hey, Jesse Jane Duff, we appreciate your forthrightness, your honesty, your clarity you bring to the issue. We'll catch up with you probably next week. Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you so
Take
much.
the hill, motivators. We're not done yet. We got a lot of fighting left to do.
Amen. You got it. You
I was
got it.
in the Marines.
9:30 in the morning, and Tom Trento, your host, WNN 1470. We need a 2-hour show to deal with everything we got going on here, and maybe that'll happen if some donors come through.
I was in the Marines.
But-
I'd hate for her to be my drill
Oh,
sergeant.
how'd you like to be our husband?
No,
Did you take out the garbage? The garbage goes out right now. Get it out here right now. Yes, dear. Yes, dear.
great.
Whatever.
We love her.
She's great. We know her well. We've been in events with her, and she was a Marine sergeant, drill sergeant.
Yeah,
you could hear
yeah.
that, but she's very intelligent.
Oh,
Trump has her. She's with Veterans for Trump, Women for Trump, and she brought that element of Walter Reed, where Jessica Rubin wrote that defunded because they let the president out. He's a patient. He wanted to go out. And she was saying that it was irresponsible on the doctor's parts. Completely stupid. Anyway, 9:31 in the morning. Noreen is with us. We want to get back to her. Then we got to talk to you, and we're going to analyze the debate a little bit further. So, Noreen, we're getting back to you. You've explained to people you're heading up an Assyrian group for Trump. We've learned about Assyria, where in the Bible you see Assyria all over the place. Then it disappears. After World War II, carved up. But the Assyrians have maintained their culture and their language. Your language is the language of Jesus. What language is that?
Assyrian Aramaic. So it's an Eastern dialect, and we actually speak, Jesus spoke our exact dialect.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah, that is pretty amazing. And tell us what you're doing, the Assyrians for Trump, and how we can help you here. And also, you're working on the persecution in the Middle East. What are your concerns if Kamala, whatever her name is, Harris and Joe Biden become the next administration and bring their policies back to the Middle East?
If Biden and Harris win, I can almost guarantee the complete annihilation of our people in Iraq and Syria, just basing it on Obama's policies and how he reacted along with Biden on his side. You know, they allowed ISIS to grow for years, for over 2 years, growing to over 120,000 between Iraq and Syria alone. I don't know if you remember when he labeled them a junior varsity team, you know, and it's not like he didn't know their threats. He knew very well who they were. And what we try to do is rally up our fellow people, our fellow, not only Americans, but Assyrians, to remember what happened to us with ISIS and in the genocide, and to remind them when our women were kidnapped and impregnated by terrorists, by force, raped over and over 30 times. You know, some women were raped over 30 times by 30 different terrorists. And our people, our men were being executed, and you know, it was broadcasted on national TV. And this is what we try to remind our people, that if you even think about voting for Biden, this is what you're asking for. You're asking for our people to be neglected again, as you know, as the Obama administration did. You know, as soon as ISIS had infiltrated and ISIS had invaded into our homelands, we went in front of the White House. We protested for 6 hours straight until I literally ended up in the hospital the next day because of dehydration. Every media outlet was there, Tom, every single, from CNN to Fox News to MSNBC to all the major radio stations in the area. They were all there. They all recorded what happened. And it was immediately, you know, Fox News, it was Sean Hannity, they immediately covered it, and all the details. I went on, and it's not like President Obama did not know. Then we lobbied him and his staffers to inform them of the dangers of ISIS. And then he went on, you know, not too long after, and said that they weren't really a threat and they're just, you know, a bunch of guerrilla fighters with small weapons, but yet they had billions of dollars of weapons behind them. The same people that Clinton was advocating to give weapons to the Syrian rebels in Syria, and the Obamas did a very good job at that too, handing the weapons to the Syrian rebels to take down Assad. But actually what they were doing was handing their weapons over to ISIS. And we have proof of that. And I broadcasted the proof of that. But yet he still turned a blind eye and still never took out ISIS. So I guarantee to the American people that if you do vote for Biden, you are truly voting for a man who didn't care about what was happening to Christianity in the Middle East. This is where Christianity first emerged. You know, as speaking of our Jewish brothers and sisters, we have no Jews in Iraq because of these failed foreign policies of the last previous administrations. And this needs to come to an end, you know, because voting Biden in will not only be a disaster in the US, but truly a disaster for us in Iraq. You know, it was just horrible. All the, you know, the lobbying we did during President Obama's, presidency, it was just, I was on my knees crying, Tom, because he just did not want to do anything, you know, and the whole world, even I met with prime ministers all over the world, and they would not react unless President Obama did, because it was their policies and how they were involved in Iraq. So they couldn't do anything unless President Obama reacted, and he didn't want to, because I'll tell you why, is because they wanted to annihilate Christianity in Iraq. When you have over 100 churches that were blown up and taken over by a terrorist group that was not only a threat in Iraq, but as you saw, it became a threat for the whole world. When he didn't want to do that and take them out while he had a very good chance, while they were still in Mosul, a city in Iraq where they were all there, he could have taken them out very easily, and he chose not to. He chose to allow them to grow throughout the country, where it literally brought an indigenous group of people, my people, from being millions at one point to 200,000. We don't even know where some of the mass graves are, because we haven't even caught up with them, because there's so many. You know, it was a very sad scene. It's still a sad scene. Our people are still suffering because of the consequences we have suffered under the Obama and Biden administration. But it's just, you know, it really will be a nightmare for my people if Biden wins. As you can see, he doesn't even seem coherent. You know, if Obama, in the state of mind that he is, didn't do anything, what makes people think that Biden will do anything for this country?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Foreign policy.
No, that's a great point. Noreen, we're going to have you back because we're running out of time with your segment, and you have so much to say. You're an amazing individual. We spent time with her a couple of years ago in Michigan and did a very long interview. We will have you back. If you need anything, give us a call, whatever we can do here to help. And as you know, the United West has expertise in the Middle East, and we have critiqued the Obama Middle Eastern policies for 8 years. And we're fearful, just as you are, if he comes back, Biden will have the same policies, and Obama will be there. And he deferred to the Islamic world. He went on his apology tour in June of 2009. Anyway, Noreen, we got to let you go.
Yeah.
Keep up your.
People can go to Assyrians.donaldjtrump.com. It is the first time in United States history that the president has acknowledged my people officially.
Say that again. Say that again, please.
Assyrians.donaldjtrump.com. It's the official Trump campaign, Assyrians for Trump.
Assyrians.donaldtrump.
DonaldJTrump.com.
We'll put it up on our website in the description. Thank you very, very much.
God bless you.
25 days.
God bless
We got a
you.
lot to go. Lot to happen. Noreen, thanks a lot. Amazing woman and work she's doing, and
Incredible organization, incredible woman who's spearheading this.
we don't think about the Middle East that much anymore because it's been stabilized to a large degree with the peace deals with Israel, which is the core of all the stabilization, with the destruction of the Islamic State. And all that stuff is going to come firing right back up. You've been in the Middle East with us, Willie G. What was your impressions, your first trip to Israel?
It's actually just blew my mind because, it was my first trip. That was a year and a half ago. And to see all the sites, and not just the holy sites, but everything that we got to experience as a group of 60, all the different, the border walls and everything. It was just amazing. And I mean, I took pictures. I put the 25-part journal of our trip, narrated everything. And I look through it all the time on my computer because I'm dying to go back there. It was just an amazing experience in my life. And even after the tour was done, that last day I spent in Bethlehem. And that was just amazing, the things that I got to see and do there and experience with the people in Bethlehem. And just a wonderful, wonderful experience, and dying to go back there again as soon as possible. I think we're going back in May, so I'm looking forward to it.
I have a question for you, Willie. I know that you had a recent experience where you met our wonderful president. Could you tell us about that meeting and what took place?
Well, this is for the Latinos for Trump down at the Doral in Miami a couple of Fridays ago. I believe there was about 150 people that were invited to this event, which was terrific. I think 15 of us from Palm Beach County were invited. And it was just an amazing event just to be up that close because of the pandemic, because of the virus and everything. We really couldn't get that close to President Trump. I think the closest I got to him was about 25 feet. But it was just an honor to be invited here from Palm Beach County. And Channel 4 and Channel 10 local Miami interviewed me there at the event, and it was terrific. And it's just great to, to see. I mean, I grew up in Miami. I spent 40 years there. My family still lives there, and they got to see me on TV, doing the interviews and what have you. And again, that was Channel 10 that came up last Saturday and interviewed me at the Trump Corner. So the event across the board was amazing. I mean, he just kind of flew on the stage and flew right out. He was there in Miami, and then he went to Atlanta, Georgia, and he went to Virginia. So the man was in 4 states in one day, while Joe Biden was in a state of confusion, the state of I don't know what else. And it was just, it was great to see President Trump up that close, and the love for the Latinos that he has, and to see 6 American flags up on the stage, and then the Cuban flag, Puerto Rican flag, Nicaragua flag, Venezuela. The Latino vote in Dade County is going to help Trump win the state of Florida. And if you're Cuban, which I am, I was born in Cuba. I came when I was 3.5 years old. Any Cuban over the age of 50 doesn't vote for Trump, needs to go back to Cuba. And they honestly,
Go back to Cuba.
He's got to win the Cuban vote, definitely. And God bless President Trump.
That's great. What an honor to have been invited to that event. I'm sure he's very aware about what you're doing on Trump Corner because it's been now in the media. You've been on the news, on TV, and so I'm sure our wonderful president is aware. Here he is, a resident of Palm Beach County. So tell us about some of the highlights about your organizations on Christian on a Mission.
Well, Christian on a Mission, we actually started in 2006, where I was doing a lot of missionary trips down to Haiti and Nicaragua. Working with all the orphans down there, and it was amazing. It really was. But the people here in Palm Beach County wanted to see me do stuff more locally. They were, giving me donations or what have you, but they weren't able to see what I was doing in Haiti with Father Rick Frechette. I actually sponsored 65 orphans in Nicaragua, rebuilt their entire orphanage out there, fixed up the basketball courts and everything. But people wanted me, to stay here locally. And that's when the funding really started getting bigger. And of course, pro-life is really what, in about 2007, I just strictly focused on pro-life, saving babies, fighting the abortion clinics. And that's what I've been doing now. For the past 8 years, I've served as the president of the Palm Beach County Right to Life League. About 10 months ago, I started Pro-Lifers for Trump, which he knows all about. And coming on Friday, October 23rd, we're going to have Respect Life Friday at Trump Corner, where all the pro-lifers are coming out. It's going to be dedicated to pro-life. We have the most pro-life president in the history of this country. And I'm going to have all the Respect Life people around the diocese come out there, set up tables, hand out brochures, let people know that we need to vote pro-life. I don't care if you're Democrat. We do have Democrats that come to Trump Corner. Vote pro-life. And this is Respect Life month of October in the entire nation, especially in the 7 dioceses here in Palm Beach. So it's really important that the pastors and priests get the word out, speak from the pulpits boldly. You can't be Catholic and vote for abortion. If you're Catholic and you vote for Biden, you need to be thrown out of the Catholic Church. And I've been saying that for years and years. The pro-life vote and the enthusiasm that we see on Trump Corner is going to win the state of Florida for President Trump.
Let me throw something in here. I'm a pro-life for many, many years, and we can't debate these people anymore. They won't come out. But you hear on the left all the time when it comes to the Wuhan disease, follow the science, follow the science. You hear on their total hoax, the climate hoax. Look, weather changes. It's going to change tomorrow. It's going to be hot or cold. Pence last night said, we're not having any more hurricanes or earthquakes than we've ever had. I mean, just this, follow the science. But you hear the left, and whenever they remove God from the function of their life, the fact is you have to replace that formally valid object, God, with something, and they replace it with science. Follow the science. Follow the science. I'd like to ask every Democrat out there who is for women's rights, why don't you follow the science of, I don't know, embryology, the development of a human being inside its mother, the science of fetology, fetus. Fetus is a Latin word that means baby. They love to take fetus. Oh, it's just a fetus. Well, if you understood language, it means baby. We take our words from Greek and from Latin. Follow the science, do a sonogram. Do a sonogram at 16 days, at 18 days, at 3 weeks. If you follow the science, and if we push them to do that, then they're confronted with the consequences of their act. They're killing something that's living, and it's a human being. You're killing a living human being. How do you justify that? Now they're backpedaling, and then they start cursing you at that point. Yes, Willie, I know you have 50 million
Let
things.
me just say something there. Conception to natural death. Okay, bottom line, conception to natural death. You sit here and wonder, how do the liberals, Planned Parenthood, they say, no, it's just a blob of tissues. It's just a fetus. It's not a baby. Why in God's name are they harvesting all these organs from a human body to sell for profit if it's not a human being? If it's just a blob of cells, You're not going to harvest a heart, kidneys, lungs. And that's what Planned Parenthood has been doing forever. I wish a guy that Vice President, I can't even think right now. I wish Vice President Pence would have, I'm thinking about Biden right now. I wish Pence would have really just stuck with pro-life abortion and really put Kamala Harris up against the wall, because that is where we could have just totally annihilated them in that debate. What Kamala Harris did, Planned Parenthood, into David Daleiden way back when those 13 videos went out, okay, about selling the baby body parts, that would have been the end of the debate right there. And I think Pence could have really, really just nailed it right there.
And that's an amazing story that he just referenced. A guy in his organization went undercover and documented the harvesting of human baby parts and the sale of them. And you have on camera some of the Planned Parenthood people talking about buying their Lamborghinis and all of this. And the state of California has prosecuted him. He's in lawsuits to this day. And guess who the attorney general was at the time? Kamala.
He was in our studio, Tom, down here just when I talked to him for a good 5 or 6 hours down here about this. How
he was here? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
really?
He was down here downstairs, and
pretty cool.
I sit there talking to him for a good 5 or 6 hours about this whole thing and how deeply tied he was with Kamala. He says Kamala is the one who shut this whole thing down. It was all Kamala.
It was all Kamala.
All Kamala, and she's banned this whole thing. You know?
All right, now we're fighting the clock. We got a lot to do here. I want to introduce something for you guys to consider, especially you white racist woman who criticized a black woman. She's I don't know if she's black. I mean, her mother is Indian, dark skin. You got dark skin, Cubano. I got darker skin than you, dude, Italian. Her father is Jamaican. From Jamaica. As I've said many times, if there's an African influence in Jamaica, everybody was born in Africa, supposedly. This the birthplace of the cradle of civilization. So we're all African something or others. But she plays with that fast and loose. She's a con man. But here's the deal. Right after the debate, and I want the three of you to weigh in on this, I went over to CNN, and they had Anderson Cooper, the lady Gloria, whatever, Obama's right-hand man, and then our friend Rick Santorum was the lonely conservative. Van Jones was there. Immediately, and as we have said on the show, I have done a lot of debating and all of that. Immediately, they started doing damage control, and they laid out this argument. If anyone out there thinks, because when they did the split screen, her face, her anger, her words, her laughing, her mannerisms, they said, if any of you interpret that as an angry woman, as an aggressive woman, as an unhinged woman, you are a racist. She has to walk a narrow line as a black woman against a white man. If she's too tough, she's viewed this way. This is systemic racism. And if you view it that way, you're a racist. This comes out of 400 years of slavery. That was their argument in saying she did a terrible job. Susie, respond on that.
Well, like you said, that was damage control. She looked just like a street fighter. And he was so poised, so in control. He had his facts. He had planned. You could just he is a master at debating. She is a street fighter, and that has nothing to do with race. That has nothing to do with gender. Imagine if he had behaved that way and made those facial expressions, then could you imagine what would have been said? And I think
what a chauvinist, what a misogynist.
I'm sick and tired of this, gender stuff, race stuff. It's so overplayed. It's like, okay, you know what? You're losing. So let's pull out the race card. Let's pull out the gender card. So I don't buy it. And it's just like you said, this was just a damage control.
Tom.
Let me just say something here real quick on that. I think after the 13-minute mark, when they got out of COVID, and they started going into the economy, you could see her body language just totally change. And I was actually texting about 8 or 9 different group texts, including
I was in one of them.
We're going back and forth and just watching everything as it transpired. And it was just, Mike Pence is such a class act. He comes with the facts, she comes with the fibs. and it was just it wasn't even close to be honest with you. But as soon as they got out of COVID, which she came prepared, the rest of it was just downhill for her. And Mike Pence could actually run for president 2024. He was spectacular. I truly believe that.
Yeah, Mary, you had something.
Yeah, I just wanted to say the best line he had, being the nice guy that he was, is you can have your own opinion, but you can't have your own facts. Essentially calling her a liar, but doing it very nicely.
Very, very nicely, yeah.
And
yeah.
the other thing I was going to say is she kept pushing Pence to say, follow the science, follow the science. But to your point, follow the science doesn't mean you follow the science when it comes to a baby.
Or when it comes to a gender. The left has identified or put out for public consumption about 30, 40 different gender categories. Now, how do you follow the science on gender? If you follow the science, there's a male and a female. Pretty simple. You know, they've turned all of that upside down. My one critique of Mike Pence, and I understand it, whenever you're asked a specific question, you need to right up front say yes or no to the best of your ability. Problem is when you give a yes or no answer, the editors cut it there, and it's a commercial. Yes, but it's essential for you to understand why. They don't put that part in. So he was being very careful not to get caught up in a commercial. That was good. But sometimes when he circled back around, he didn't nail the point as well as he could have. And I guarantee you, and he watches the tapes, the reviews, he goes, I'm gonna improve that. I got to give a clear answer. And if he would have done that, it was a knockout. I mean, she was a mess. So Mark, your thoughts on the debacle last night for Kamala?
You said at the last debate, style and substance. All right, style-wise points, just, got it. Pence handed her butt. Okay, basically. And substance-wise too, but the style points is where she just lost it, because style-wise you can see, Pence was biblically based in one way, and Kamala's style was biblically based in the other way.
Good against evil. It was a clear demonstration of good against evil.
Well, and just we all know how Kamala came up through, got her, start in life with Willie Brown. And she's a homewrecker. She's a total, and she came across as that homewrecker and that trampy type of style. She just came. Even Democrats hate her. Okay, she didn't even get to pass round one in a Democrat debate.
That was a disaster for them.
They hate her.
That thing was a disaster. When
exactly.
CNN is doing all the damage control and they're running these snap polls where she wins by 80 points, they're in trouble. Look, we got a minute left. Willie G, for those of you driving, Tom Trento, WNN 1470, 95.3. 9:46 in the morning. For those of you driving and you're listening to Willie G, what a nice voice that Cuban man has, that middle-aged Cuban man.
We need to know what his website is so that our listeners can reach out and help with the campaign.
We're going to do that in a second. Let me get him a date.
Sorry.
I'm trying to get him a date.
Sorry.
Okay. And you're not watching on theunitedwest.org. Very handsome Cuban man. If you're a wealthy, attractive Republican woman, contact me.
Wealthy
with an emphasis on wealthy.
And me, because we do the
And
screening.
she handles donate, and we'll
Pass
negotiate.
our interview first.
We'll negotiate a relationship, a date, a first date with Willie G, and you'll thank us forever. So how could this prospective woman get in touch with you?
Tom, I'm entering the seminary on November 1st. A latecomer, but I want to become a Catholic priest. You'll be my first confession.
Okay, here we go.
Best way to reach me is at my my cell number, 305-610-2992. Again, 305-610-2992. Or on my email, which is willieguardiola@yahoo.com. Willie, WILLYGUARDIOLA@yahoo.com. I'm there 24/7. I seldom rest on the 7th.
All right, and there it is. That's our show for
with a Hall of Fame referee, Willie
Oh
Guardiola.
yeah, Hall of Fame SEC referee, basketball referee, right here. I'm telling you, ladies, this guy's a catch. All right, take it easy. We'll see you tomorrow. And Frank Wright, Dr. Frank Wright, an expose on George Soros tomorrow, Friday.